Hello there, good morning and welcome to Claret and Booze. This is the Daily Ramble. My name is John, aka Virgil, and before I get started, if you like the show, please hit the like button. Why not subscribe if you haven't already done so to our YouTube channel, Claret and Booze. And don't forget, if you do subscribe, hit that bell notification and you'll be advised as and when we go live or upload shows. Well, as I say, today is Wednesday, the 15th of March. It's my son's 12th birthday, so happy birthday, Freddie, if you watch. So today, yeah, look, it's going to be a ramble. I've got a few topics to talk about, some of which I've seen discussed elsewhere, some of which are based on news articles that I've read so far this week. Now, look, where do we start? Well, we start with the aftermath of the 1-1 draw against Aston Villa on Sunday. I'm not going to diagnose or dissect the game itself. What I'm going to talk about is what came out afterwards. What came out afterwards was one of the most condescending, patronising articles I've ever read from what is meant to be an impartial journalist. The journalist's name was Ian Ladyman, who wrote an article for the Daily Mail where he suggested that the West Ham fans at the end of the game, at the final whistle against Villa, were booing. They were booing the performance, which they shouldn't have been doing. He also suggested that the atmosphere at the London Stadium was not there, which didn't help West Ham United, which in fact, in turn, would have helped Aston Villa more than West Ham United. Now, I don't know this guy, Ian Ladyman. I don't know if he goes to West Ham regularly over to the London Stadium. But what I will say is that all fans are entitled to boo. All fans are entitled to voice their concerns and or opinions however they like to do so. It's in their remit as a supporter to support the club how they see fit. Now, I don't boo, but again, I don't judge people for doing so. But what this guy's got to realise is that the fans that were booing were not booing the performance, because the performance on Sunday was actually a far better performance than we've seen in a couple of weeks. It was better. We didn't get the 3 points that we needed. It was better. So we wasn't booing the performance and we wasn't booing the players. What we were booing, Mr. Ladyman, was the whole situation at the club and predominantly, unfortunately, David Moyes' lack of ambition or lack of taking the game by the scruff of the neck and going for the 3 points that I believe were there for the taking. Instead, David Moyes reverted to type, and whilst he didn't do a like-for-like substitution, he did in terms of one up front for one up front. But he brought on Maxwell Cornet. Now, with all due respect to Maxwell Cornet, I haven't seen much of him. Not many of us have, let's be honest. But when we needed a goal, he took off a proven Premier League goal scorer in Danny Ings. Okay, he didn't do much at the weekend, but he didn't have much to feed off of. And he didn't bring on Gianluca Scamacca, our £35 million Italian international, who was again an unused sub for the fourth game in a row. Now, you can make of this what you will. But in my opinion, the media have been and still are being fed information from the West Ham fan that is David Sullivan, the West Ham fan that almost runs the club to spite the fans, the West Ham fan that feeds bits and bobs of information to his friends in the media, i.e. Jim White of TalkSport, and now possibly Mr. Ian Ladyman. We've heard in recent weeks from Mr. Moyes, David Moyes, about the fans should not forget the success we've had in recent years under him, and that in some way that should appease us at the moment, and we need to get behind him and all the fans. We've now heard from the Daily Mail's Ian Ladyman that the fans booing at the final whistle and the lack of atmosphere is not going to help the team. But I'll put it to you that when you go regularly, I'll go every home game. Some people go every home and away game. When you're sitting there watching that crap, there's only so much you can take. I get that the fans create an atmosphere, that the fans can get behind a team and lift the team. But when you feel that you're just treading water constantly, I think a lot of fans feel a little bit lost. For me now, I've accepted that David Moyes will not be sacked. I truly believe that. I've said it for a while. In fact, I'll be more shocked if they do sack David Moyes than if they don't. But what Sullivan is doing, he's papering over the cracks, the huge David Sullivan midget-sized cracks that he has produced or made at the club that he supposedly supports. So much so that it wasn't until last week, and I think it was Darren Bent on TalkSport, was the first voice I heard in the media who said that Moyes probably has to go. I do believe that there's a little bit of pride, and you may not like that, but a bit of pride to be taken from the last two seasons, finishing 6th and 7th and getting to the Europa League semi-final. It was, by our standards, success. But it doesn't mean, Sullivan, that we forget what you've done to this club. It doesn't mean that those 2 seasons of relative success will make us forget how you're running our club like a fucking circus, because that's what you're doing. And now we're back in a relegation battle. The heat's on you. If you can't take the heat, mate, get out of the kitchen. But we know you won't, because your mega plan to do everything on the cheap and sell us for ultimate profit may now backfire. It may be too late for you to act, because you haven't acted in the time before the World Cup. We've got 2.5 weeks now before our next game. You're not going to do anything, which is fine. We just hope that Moyes can do things on the training field or the training ground that he hasn't yet done. Can he come up with something new? Because what we've got at the minute isn't working. Now, we may survive relegation. We may get out of this situation, and I hope we do. But let's be honest, it won't be because of you, and it won't be because of Moyes. It will be in spite of you, and unfortunately, in spite of Moyes. The fan base is devoid of all confidence in the club and the management and the ownership. To me, it looks like the players are devoid of all faith in the manager. But you know why? Because he doesn't show faith in them. He doesn't think that that set of players are good enough to go at teams anymore. He doesn't think that the players that we've brought in, namely Paqueta, Scamacca, Cornet, Emerson, all the signings that we made that were meant to improve us, he doesn't think that they or we as a team are good enough to be on the front foot. We have to sit back and accept it. Or is it that he doesn't feel the pressure from above because he knows you ain't got the balls to do nothing? I don't care how much money you say you've put into this club, because everything you do now is club money. It's not your money, it's club money. And if you do put some of your own money in, you probably get something back out of it anyway. A high percentage loan or whatever. I don't know the ins and outs, but I don't trust you as far as I can throw you. The club's back to square one again. And for the media to be fed your lies, to cover over the shit that you've put us through, which has been glossed over the last 2 years. We all forgot about you, didn't we? But now we're back because we're back where we were, which is relegation fighting again. I'm used to it. We're all used to it. We've done it before you. We've done it since you. And we will always remain here because we are West Ham fans. West Ham fans that you allegedly are as well. But let me tell you, no West Ham fan I know would run the club like you do. On the field, the players are made to be scapegoats. Off the field, the fans are made to be scapegoats. I mean, moving on slightly, what is happening with Gianluca Scamacca? Now, before he come to us, PSG were reportedly in for him. He, with conversations with his agency, decided to come to West Ham. Wow, he chose West Ham over PSG, if the reports are to be true. In recent weeks, he's cut his ties with his agency, put down to a lack of trust between the two parties. I wonder if that's because Scamacca has had enough of what's happening at West Ham and he feels that the agency lied to him. We don't know. But what's really happening there is that Scamacca is now being made a scapegoat. There's obviously a problem between Scamacca and Moyes. And I read an article in an Italian press last week where Scamacca's ex-teammate and international teammate Fratesi said that Scamacca told him directly that the West Ham training was far more intense than anything he'd experienced. Now, you may say, well, they've got a trainer, didn't they? They're professionals. But there's only so much running that you can do. There's only so much battering that you can take. That type of training works in a certain situation with certain types of players. Most of the players Moyes brought in when he first came in, and most of the players at West Ham that he'd worked with, and most of the players that he worked with at Everton were from lower leagues, were from the Championship, were players trying to rebuild their careers, or in fact, somewhat unknown players. You can run players like that into the ground. But when you bring players in who are, shall we say, more world class, like Scamacca, Paqueta, Emerson, to name but a few again, they're going to look around and they're going to think, what on earth is this training? We're just running. We're just running through fields. We're just running around. Where's the ball? Give me the ball. These players want to train with the ball. And Scamacca's probably in some way complained to Fratesi. And maybe this is what Moyes don't like. Maybe Moyes has read the article. Or maybe in training, Scamacca's questioned the training techniques. This is not what he's going to be used to. In Italy, the training sessions are far more relaxed. Now, you could say that that is due to the fact that their league may not be as intense as the Premier League. And I get that to some extent, but there's only so much running you can do. There's only so much running you can do. These aren't marathon runners. These aren't steeplechasers. These are footballers. Let them play with the ball. Let them train with the ball. Let them enjoy training. If they don't enjoy training, they're not going to take it on board. And I think that race is run now. You know, when Moyes first come in and we was the lowest running stats, and then in a certain amount of time, he got us up to the top of the league in running stats. And that might explain why Souček just looks absolutely knackered. We know he can't pass the ball and he hasn't got technique. But even in terms of him just plodding along on the pitch. I mean, Gonzo did a video earlier on Hammer's Chat with Gio, I think, where he was talking about, he was looking at Souček's stats or trying to do a little bit of an analysis of Souček during the Villa game. And he said he just couldn't because Souček did nothing. And it's true. He did nothing because he's absolutely shattered. A donkey only works on a beach for a certain amount of time. There's only so many people he can carry. There's only so much running Soucek can do before his body's just shot to pieces. And I think Moyes has literally broke him. And he's breaking a lot of the players because he doesn't have confidence in them. If you don't have confidence in them, they're not going to have confidence in themselves. If you're telling them they're not good enough to take a game of football to the opposition, they're going to be devoid of all confidence. They're going to be shot to pieces. They're going to start underperforming, and then it's going to become a chain of events that just spirals out of control, a domino effect to some extent. The boss don't rate me. I must be crap. I'm playing crap because of that. Wow, you're right, Mr. Moyes. I ain't good enough. I am crap. Well, that team are. They shouldn't be in fear of anybody, really. And we're seeing it now with a lot of players, absolutely devoid of confidence. But on a positive note, what I would say is that those players who are low on confidence and the manager, David Moyes, who doesn't have confidence in the players, they don't have to look very far to see somebody who's turned it around. And that would be Said Benrahma. Said Benrahma this season is taking all the plaudits because he's been our best player. Let's be honest, he has. In the last 5 games alone, he scored 2 and assisted 3 in all competitions. I, and others included, had a very different opinion of him last season, where he was so inconsistent and so frustrating. And don't get me wrong, at times now he's still frustrating, but you can see the confidence in him. And you know why? Because Moyes is giving him opportunities. Now, whether Moyes is doing that off his own back or fan pressure, I don't know. But you can definitely see the difference in Benrahma. You can see the confidence that he exudes on the pitch. He's playing for himself, his professionalism, and the fans. He's probably not playing for Moyes. They don't get on. They never will. Benrahma's a sensitive soul. He needs to play to get confidence, and that's what's happening. And we're seeing a different Benrahma this season. And look, we know they're highly paid footballers, and people will go, oh, what are they, babies? But some players need that. Some players need that. You know, Redknapp was the best at that with Paolo Di Canio, wasn't he? You know, Paolo Di Canio was an emotional guy. So the players need to look no further than Benrahma. Scamacca cost us £35 million. Rumours already that he's only going to be valued at £30 million. I mean, I don't know, you know, you can't believe everything you read, but that's already the derogatory rumours that are coming out there. It doesn't bode well. If Moyes goes at the end of the season, we can keep Scamacca, and hopefully a new manager will give him the love and give him the style and the confidence that he needs. Because at the moment, if Moyes stays beyond this season, then Scamacca will be gone. Where? I don't know. But I read an article earlier. I read 2 articles earlier. One was Mancini's take on the situation. And first of all, I'll talk about the fact that a top Italian journalist actually said that Scamacca would walk into any of the Italian league teams' starting lineup. No questions asked. The Azzurri, the Italian national team, and Italians in general have a lot of time, respect, and faith in Scamacca. They love him. Mancini, though, knows that he needs to play. And Scamacca, being a proud Italian that he is, will realise that if he's not playing, he'll struggle to get into the Italian team. If Scamacca can get into any Italian team, why can't he get into ours? Why is he being made a scapegoat? Is it because he maybe stood up for himself and said, you know what, David, I'm not Mikel Antonio. I can't do that job. I need to be playing alongside someone. Let me play with Ings. Who knows? But Scamacca, don't give up, mate. When you get your opportunity, please God, you get your opportunity and you prove people wrong. You prove David Moyes wrong. I know you can do it, mate. I know you've got something about you. We all do. And just look at Benny for confidence, or look up at Benny and see what he's done. Moving on to Benny again. Now, as we know, if we do get relegated, there'll be vultures circling around the club looking to pick up players on the cheap. But already before relegation, if in fact we do get relegated at all, rumours again coming out of Italy that AC Milan are keeping an eye on Saïd Benrahma and are eyeing up the possibility of bidding a 25 to 30 million euro bid for him in the summer. Now, if we go down, they might be able to pick him up for cheaper than that. But this just shows you how far he's come. He's come from a player who split opinions at West Ham amongst the fan base and a lot of pundits, to a player now that, okay, in a turgid season, is our best player and has been our best player, I think, in an attacking sense, at the very least. Are the club preparing for relegation? I think they probably are. You know, when Ings signed in January, he would have took a relegation clause where his wages would have been deducted 20, 30% if we were to get relegated. And I actually heard that even the players in the summer who signed had relegation clauses put in. Now, you could say that that's quite normal, but after 2 great seasons that we had, why would a board even thinking about relegation? Maybe they didn't have the faith in Moyes that they portrayed to us and the media. Now, another player who has come back since the second half of the season and really impressed is Vladimir Coufal, and I just want to talk about him. Now, Vladimir Coufal, you know, at the start of the season, he had a very, very poor start. He needed to be dropped, and he subsequently was. Since the break, since the World Cup, since come back, I think he's been one of our better players. And it's funny how things turn around again, because Ben Johnson, look, I love Ben Johnson. He's one of our own and all that. But at the end of the day, he is so inconsistent. He goes from having a good game to an absolutely shocking game. Tilo, German international defender. I mean, my oh my, he makes mistake after mistake, and he doesn't fill us with confidence either. And we're actually now missing Vladimir Coufal, a player who we were all calling for to be dropped before the World Cup. But he's come back, and again, he is willing to run through walls for this club. He's doing it for the fans now. He's another one who's doing it for himself and the fans. I don't think I'm not saying he don't respect Moyes, but he seems to have taken on the Benrahma mantra of just saying, you know what, I'm going to get on with it. I'm going to prove what I'm worth. But unfortunately, as soon as he's come back into sort of, you know, fairly good form, he's now been diagnosed with something called plantar fasciitis, which is a common injury which happens to people who carry out rigorous activity, such as a footballer, and affects your heel. Now, terribly shocking that I've read into this is that it could take from 6 months to a year to heal. Now, I'm not saying he won't be able to play in that time, but he's going to be in immense pain. I mean, there is a lot they can do these days, you know, painkilling injections and shockwave treatments and, you know, wearing certain type of footwear and things like that. But it just goes to prove how quickly things can turn around and how important now Coufal actually is to us because of the situations we have at right back with Johnson and Kehrer. Confidence is something that all players need. They need to hear confidence from their manager first and foremost. And by playing, being given the opportunity, they play regular, they get better, they gain confidence, and with the confidence, they create more and just generally, in the main, have better form as a player. Well, look, that's my ramble over, nearly 25 minutes. I do apologise if I've waffled on a bit, but I suppose being a daily ramble, that's what we're meant to do. If you've got any comments, please put them in the comment section. I'll try and reply to as many as I can. So yeah, you know, the fans, we're to blame. Apparently, we're the scapegoats, or is it certain players are the scapegoats? They can't do what they should be doing. At the end of the day, we're the fans. We're here to stay. If anything, we should never be made a scapegoat. And what you need to do, Sullivan, is take a long, hard look at yourself. And as I said, realize the mistakes that you've made and the mistakes that you're continuing to make to this day. And the biggest mistake you can ever do is calling out the fans, because we've been nothing but loyal to this club through a lot of shit long before you and since you've been in charge. So if you like the video, please hit the like button. Any comments, slap them in there. I'll try and reply to as many as I can. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe to Claret and Booze on YouTube and hit the bell notification. We will be back at some point this week with a booze cast. I'll be away at the end of the week. Got a family funeral to attend up in Birmingham. But thanks for watching. And look, let's hope we can get out of this. But remember, Sullivan, it's not because of you. It will be in spite of you. Come on, you irons.